Let's move on here to the media. This just gives me so much joy. So, of course, MSNBC was in total meltdown. What was happening on election night. We've curated two of our particular favorite moments and some of the worst takes yet from the commentators out there. Let's start with our old friend, Nicole Wallace. Here's how she was reacting to the results.
I think we know the answer to some of this. I watched Glenn Youngkin's interviews on Fox News, and he did nothing that he did not. I mean, he worshipped at the altar of Donald Trump on Fox News. He flew an insurrection flag at his rallies. He simply didn't. He played dumb about a Zoom rally. He did not really put much distance between himself and Donald Trump on the big lie or the deadly insurrection in which police officers were maimed by flagpoles. So I think that the real ominous thing is that critical race theory, which isn't real, turned the suburbs 15 points to the Trump insurrection endorsed Republican. What do Democrats do about that?
How many times are you going to say the word insurrection there, Marshall? I mean, look, these people are such a joke. Critical race theory, she says, which is not real, which is a total lie. Critical race theory is obviously real. I mean, take a look at any of the documents or whatever that have been released from these diversity trainings or whatever. And here's the thing, if you believe in it, then defend it. That's fine, but they know that they can't even defend it. So they just say that it's a total made up lie. It's completely ridiculous. If you want to have a real debate around what these people have been pushing, so be it. But if anything, I think they're, again, just not even getting to the core of it. It's actually mighty convenient, both for the Republicans and for the media, to this be some referendum on race. And I just simply don't believe that whatsoever. Did it play a part? 100%. Did the economy still rank as the #1 issue in all the exit pollings? Yes. And yet they are remiss to do a single segment or discuss inflation, supply chain, gas price, general dissatisfaction with the Biden presidency, vaccine politics, mandates, mask wearing, Fauci. I mean, there are so many elements to this, Marshall. And yet all you see from Nicole Wallace is both critical race theory and the Trump insurrectionist, endorsed, insurrectionist. By the way, did you know there was an insurrection? But now they're calling it deadly, which is, I mean, yes, people died. Most of them were boomers who had heart attacks.
Well, look,
but
let's.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is the key thing, and this is what is shocking watching that clip. There is Nicole Wallace, a former major White House Bush campaign person. You have one of the Castros. I didn't catch which Castro brother that was, and then you of course have other political, Claire McCaskill, a senator. What you've realized is, man, you people are terrible at politics. Like, I think we're both increasingly obsessed with this topic of what is politics and who's actually good at it. Like, once again, like, to push back a bit, neither of us are asking Democrats to not care about the Capitol insurrection. That isn't the point. This isn't about debating what happened at the insurrection. This is just sort of like, you know what is definitely not a thing? That narrative as a narrative that drives votes. There are all sorts of things that you and I individually care about and are obsessed with. But the fact that the MSNBC panel there is unable to realize that the rural voters, those Hispanic voters, the black voters in those swing districts that help give the House of Delegates to Republicans are not voting on that issue is insane, and at its core level is simply cope. Like, that is what's actually insane here. What's also insane here is, once again, this discussion of critical race theory. Number one, if you're good at politics, you understand. If you're telling, hey, voters, this thing you think you believe in isn't actually real, I don't think that's quite it. Like, I actually want to sit down with Nicole Wallace, if she would ever come on either of our programs at this point, and just have a real question of, hey, trust in media has just completely collapsed. Trust in every institution has collapsed. Like, do you think that you going to these, like, let's say centrist, center-left voters who, this was reported in the New York Times, like, voted for Biden but were skeptical of critical race theory, do you think you telling them, oh, don't worry, it's not real? In what issue area would that work? But what's insane to me is I don't understand why there isn't a Democrat out there who basically says the following. He says, look, Rob DiAngelo is crazy. What's funny is we talk to a lot of center-left Democratic folks on background, aside from like what's public, they will all admit these things are true. They say, we think Ibram Kendi goes too far. We think the diversity trainings are nuts. We don't actually believe those things. So just say that, and just say, look, like, we think America has a history of race. It's complicated. We're going to teach that, but don't worry. We're not going to tell your son or daughter that they are like evil because they're white. That's nuts. That's a fake Republican talking point. But instead, rather than address what this is actually about, because I hated this segment, but there was some, he looked like he was a Vietnam veteran in Virginia who was, got on camera,
right.
and they were saying, define.
They stuck a camera in his face.
They stuck a camera in his face. They're like, define critical race theory. And he couldn't give an eloquent articulation of it.
Sure.
Once again, actual politics is about understanding what people are trying to say. Obviously, he's not going to be able to define critical race theory, but what he thinks critical race theory is and what it represents is the fact that he doesn't feel like he has any input or ability to influence what his grandchildren are taught. He thinks that there is this idea that he is taught that he is to be hated in this country, and that's bad. Most Democrats don't actually agree with that, aka why Glenn Youngkin actually did pretty well in these contexts. So just own that and don't be condescending to voters. It's stupid.
And yet they continue to keep this up on the Joy Reid front. We have this clip where it's again just emphasizing January 6th, Republicans are dangerous. Take a listen.
They would have to be willing to say what you have said on your show. I think we've all said a version of it. You have to be willing to vocalize that these Republicans are dangerous, that this isn't a party that's just another political party that disagrees with us on tax policy, that at this point, they're dangerous. They're dangerous to our national security because stoking that kind of soft white nationalism eventually leads to the hardcore stuff. It leads to the January 6th stuff because if people are tolerant of it in your party, they're tolerant of the soft racism, it's a really short trip to get to the January 6th insurrectionist place. And we're not.
They just keep going, Martin. Republicans are dangerous, and apparently January 6th had to do with critical race theory now. This is just so completely ridiculous. As you said, actually, either acknowledge it and defend it or say, no, that's not what we actually believe. But gaslighting people about how it's, how it's racist or how everybody who voted that way is racist, it's just not going to work. But they continue to do this. And you know what? At this point, keep going. God bless them. Because this is what's going to keep happening. Virginia, New Jersey, how the hell do you come within half a point of losing New Jersey, a state that Biden won by 16 points? But Jemele Hill, the gift that keeps on giving, let's put this up there on the screen. She says, very simply, this is a Jonah Goldberg tweet, but this is also very important. He says, all of the people on MSNBC convincing themselves that all of these VA voters who voted for Biden a year ago are idiots, racists, and or dupes is pretty wild. And I'm loath to agree with Jonah Goldberg, but that's actually a pretty good point, which is that, as we saw, the rural voters themselves that these people are decrying, they actually did not vote for Trump in the same numbers that they voted for Youngkin. Yep. These suburban voters actually totally rejected Trump. But with Glenn Youngkin, what they're trying to do is describe him as some, I think Van Jones called him the Delta variant of Trumpism. But it's important to see.
That one's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. That's a classic Van Jones.
I'm like,
I'll give it to him. All right, the man has a way with words. It's kind of a joke. But look, Jemele Hill, if we have that tweet, please put that on the screen because this is what they are. This is their takeaway. It's not the messaging, folks. This country simply loves white supremacy. Wajahat Ali, it's the similar one. These people are all over MSNBC. They're contributing editors at the New York Times. Jemele has a huge podcast. She's at The Atlantic. Put the Wajahat Ali tweet up there also on the screen, please. He says, quote, whiteness remains undefeated. Let's wait and see who these white suburban voters went for tonight in Virginia. Any guesses?
Once again, this is the key thing. They went for Glenn Youngkin. Yeah. He's a rich, private equity,
Carlisle
normal guy. Yeah. Once again, I said a bunch of things that are very not normal, but the key thing is it's not normal. And look, this is where we have to, talk to the Republican Party for a second. This was a normal campaign. Mm-hmm. Everything that Trump did, especially after COVID, just was not normal. And the thing here of it, you just ruin, and this, like, by the way, this is just a tragedy of like the nationalization of American politics is what we're seeing in these clips. We're not just, I know it seems like we're just doing all these dunks on the media, it's MSNBC, it's obvious, it's cringe, whatever, but the thing that actually matters here is what's becoming increasingly clear is that because all these folks who have these prominent perches could only think of issues through the lens of national politics, it literally rots their ability to think about anything. In any of those segments, did you hear someone say, okay, rural versus urban. Okay, Long Island.
Yeah.
Okay, New Jersey. No, the only thing they can do is talk about January 6th. I'm from Oregon. Saagar's from Texas. We're not just in this Asala corridor bubble. I do not know anyone who is organically talking about January 6th right now. Maybe if Trump were on the ballot, that'd be a point of conversation.
Story.
And actually, frankly, I think if Trump was on the ballot, that is a completely reasonable 2024 narrative. But once again, people, especially speaking to the Democrats in the audience, just because you have a niche, specific policy and political interest does not mean you can go talk to everybody. You know, I'm really into like local media funding. I think that's a really important issue. I'm not, however, if I were going to run for governor of a state, going to walk around shouting about it, because that's not what actual politics is. So just geez, everyone, just let's.
Okay, well, let me give you the final take from the man that I branded professional wrong person, Dr. Jason Johnson, on MSNBC. Let me put this on the screen. So this was his political advice, that Democrats are losing because they don't talk about January 6th enough. That's actually the real take here from Dr. Jason Johnson. He continues to earn his stripe of the professional wrong person. It is amazing that they continue to have him there on the network, but this is what these people get, and you are beginning to see the results of that.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.